Brilliant. So today is the last session of the first day of the Green Book Fair, and we wanted to look at something which I feel that literary fiction, that small publishers even do really well globally, which is literary fiction. And I think that is perhaps because independent publishers have this element of risk-taking. They perhaps seek out debut or diverse and exciting, perhaps experimental writers, and they're really good at finding niche communities. I don't believe that literary fiction is niche, but I think that particular stories match well with particular audiences. And we're going to look at that today and how we market something which the general book industry sees as perhaps difficult to market, and whether it is difficult around the world. So we have Zofia Dimitrijevic, the foreign rights manager from Czarne Publishing House in Poland, which I'm really excited about to see how that works there, and hear the insight into how literary fiction is received there. I'm also going to speak on behalf of Fly on the Wall Press in Manchester in the UK. We specialise in political leaning and socially conscious literary fiction, short fiction, and poetry. So we have a kind of blend of that. And I'm really interested to see what the similarities or differences are between the two markets and the marketing approach to literary fiction as well. So before we kick off, I wanted to know, Zofia, about firstly how you got into publishing, into foreign rights, because I think not a lot of people know about that career path, and I think people will be interested in that. And also what Czarne specialises in and what you're kind of known for globally or within Poland.
So first of all, thank you very much for inviting me to this event. And I want to apologize for this Z name on my I don't know how to change it. It doesn't look very well, but I'm in Czarne for 15 years. So I'm in the publishing business for a long time, actually. And I was doing a lot of things in our publishing house. Maybe first I will start about the publishing house, because right now, when I joined, it was a very small publisher. I was, I think, sixth, maybe. There was six people working. Now we have more than 20. So we grown a little bit. But what is, I think, the most important for us is that it's led by the same people from the very beginning. This publishing house was established by Monika Schneiderman and Andrzej Stasiuk. He's a quite well-known Polish author. But Monika, she is editor-in-chief. She is behind the publishing house. She decides what we do, what we publish. And she's running the publishing house from the very beginning. So we have changed a lot of things over the years. We started with exactly what you said, actually, at the beginning. We decided, Monika, I was not on board yet at that point, but we wanted to publish books translated from other languages, but not from the big languages, not from English, German, French, etc., but from other smaller languages, because we thought that those are great literatures, but not well known. So Slovenian, Croatian, Serbian, Albanian, Hungarian, etc., not just from Central Europe, from all over the world, but from the languages less known. And it was a great adventure. Fantastic books, completely non-commercial, but somehow we managed to stay, not to go down. But after that, we decided to publish a lot of nonfiction, and it was 15 years ago, probably, when we started with that, and it was also quite risky at that point. People said that readers will not want to buy the books that are like narrative nonfiction. But Monika thought that this is the time when journalism was in big crisis. Newspapers, they couldn't afford having correspondence in different countries, etc. So before we used to buy magazines, weekly magazines, and then read interesting reports on many subjects. But magazines did not have money to do that anymore. So all those journalists, they didn't have a place to speak, to use their knowledge, to use their expertise, and they started to publish books. And right now we have a lot of publishing houses in Poland who opened a series of nonfiction books that are similar to ours, and also some publishing houses that specialize only in nonfiction, and we take the credit for that. so we are quite proud, but we've never abandoned fiction. And actually, during the last few years, we started to go back to literary fiction more and more, and to open new series that are just about literary fiction, mostly non-commercial or with higher literary value. I would say award-winning books mostly, but also debutantes, a lot of debutantes, Polish debutantes, I would say that usually, but that's what we do. We publish around 80 titles per year right now. So it's not, we are not that small anymore, but we are, what is for me the most important thing, that we are completely independent and with a very strong vision, because this is one person's vision actually. And we know exactly everybody who works, all the staff. We agree with that. It's easy for us to do our job because we know what we stand for. We know what is behind that. And even if we change a genre, we don't change the point of view. We don't change the values that are behind that. So I think it makes it easier, and it also helps us somehow with our readers, because they also, over the years, they got to know us and they know what to expect from us.
So when you're acquiring then, is your editorial team primarily one person who everyone is sort of in line with? Is it Monique's vision? Is she the one identifying and acquiring the new fiction?
Oh, no, we have quite a nice editorial office. I think there is like, probably one person who mostly acquires fiction, one person who mostly acquires non-fiction, and also probably 2 or 3 people who work with Polish authors. Sometimes we approach them and ask them to write a book about a specific subject, or we just work with the subject that they bring to us. And it goes mostly for non-fiction, but also with fictional books. Usually we just got the material. It's not something that you can initiate. You cannot just approach somebody and tell them, please write me a great novel. But
that would be nice,
yeah.
wouldn't it?
But the final decision is always our editor-in-chief. She can say, yes, we are doing that, or no, maybe not. I don't do that that often. Of course, I have my own fields of expertise. So sometimes I'm asked to review a book. I speak Serbian, for instance. So if we publish something from Serbia or Croatia, I can get the book and read it and say what I think about it. But I started as an editorial assistant at the beginning. Then for many years I was working in promotion. So the subject of this panel is actually quite for me quite interesting, because this is what I still do it to some extent. But at the beginning of this year, we decided to take the foreign rights to the publishing house. Before, we were represented by agencies, so we are not doing it personally. And now we decided to try. We thought that maybe it will work better, because we know our books the best. So maybe we can explain to others, convince them that it's worth to take a risk and to try to introduce those books to their markets as well.
No, I think that's a brilliant idea. I think that you have identified the USPs of the publishing house very well, and hopefully you are the best advocate by doing it in-house. We were talking earlier about risk, and earlier in the Green Book Fair, we were talking about how to define success in publishing. It is quite tough to know, definitely across different markets. The baseline of a bestseller is different, and especially in independent publishing. So when this process of identifying and acquiring a promising literary fiction book comes up, how do you know that it's going to be promising? You mentioned awards, but how do we know that it's going to win an award, at that point of signing?
Not. I mean, I would love to give you an answer, but probably if we knew, we would only publish bestsellers. And it's always a gamble. We try to follow the trends, of course. We try to know what's right now, what is the main topic that attracts the most attention. But first of all, it changes so quickly. And we want to publish really high quality literature. And it takes time. It's not that we buy the book and we publish it in 3 months. It's just impossible. We want the best translators to translate the book. And they need at least half a year, or usually a year, sometimes they are not free at the time we start the project. So we need to wait until they are available. And by the time we publish the book, this hot topic may not be that hot anymore. So while we are following the trends, of course, we also don't want to pay too much attention to that, to have some good balance, because this mission is just impossible. So we try to, I don't want it to sound too, I don't know the word, the best word to express that. We would like more to create the trends than to follow them. And I know it may sound that we are not very humble, but I don't think at this like that. When we believe in something, we think that it's much better to convince other people that this is important and that this is something they should pay attention to, than just to go the other way around. For instance, right now, we decided we want to promote short stories, because short stories are not that well represented in Poland. For many years, they were treated as something inferior, like not real literature, like novel, this is a real literature, but short stories is just if somebody doesn't know how to write it. But this is completely untrue. It's so difficult to write a good short story. So we opened a new series of American short stories with the classics like, I don't know, Carson McCullers or John Cheever. This is one point. And we started to talk to many people, to readers, to critics, to journalists, to influencers, and slowly to somehow convince them that this is something that we should read, that this is something we should pay attention to. And we started a short stories festival. It's actually going to happen, the second one, next weekend.
What's the festival name?
This is like mini festival of short stories. And it happens in our publishing house. We cooperate with 2 other publishers from Poland. Great. And it starts with a contest for readers. And this year we got 500 works for this contest. So people actually, if they write short stories, they probably would like to read them. And last year we got such a great short stories that right now we are publishing the book of the person who won the contest. So his story was so good that we asked him if he has more of that in his shirt, and I said, yes, I am. So the book will be published next week, probably. So I think, and it took us like 1.5 years, and I think we are still halfway there, not yet, but we can see the result. And if you are patient, and if we do what we do, then probably we will get the reward eventually. So this is not maybe the best answer for your question, because of course we check the rewards. For English language literature, it's much more difficult, because when you get some big reward, there is a queue for this book already, probably, and it's not so easy for us to acquire it. For smaller languages, it's easier. If you have, I don't know, Hungarian book with Hungarian Literary Award, our chances to acquire that book it's greater. But to be honest, Polish readers read American or English language literature much more often than Hungarian. It is, I think it's a pity, not that I have anything against English literature, but there is so many great books that are worth our attention. But we talk with our translators a lot, with translators also from the other languages, and with translators from other languages, Polish literature to other languages. And I think what is very good is to have this network and to talk with other publishers from other countries. Because if I have a publisher house that has a similar profile to mine, from UK, for instance, and if you buy a great Irish book or French, etc., you can let me know, because we are not in competition. But I can know that way about the best books that appear somewhere else that otherwise I could miss. So I think
I think that's the nice thing about small publishers, that often, we do fairs such as this, we talk to each other, we understand that we have limited capacity for books, and we want to share that knowledge and those books, the talent that perhaps we don't have capacity to, but perhaps, wouldn't be quite right for us, but might be exactly right for what you're looking for.
Yes. So either between us, sometimes I get the work and I think, oh, this is so interesting when I read it. And I know this is not for us, but I know the girl from the other publishing house, so I can send her this book. And it works wonders, really. But also from the international scene, we have some cooperation with I don't know, French or Dutch or German publishers. They can just let us know that they came over something really interesting. And I think this is how we do it mostly.
Thank you. It sounds like Czarne are doing a lot of creating a space for readers, as well as speaking to the Polish readers and the journalists that you're saying, and say, what do you want? And then deciding how to create something for them, which is still in line with your vision, which I find very interesting. We were talking about non-commercial books, but still having room and creating profit from them, which is great. And there must be a lot of growth with Czarne to grow from 6 employees to 20. So I wondered, what strategies have Czarne found effective for building that loyal readership? So it sounds like you've got some, especially literary fiction. Sometimes it's difficult to find that readership or for them to develop a trust in you. For example, the short fiction, you were saying we had to build a festival. Perhaps that was the strategy you had for building an audience for short fiction in Poland, which is very ambitious.
Yes.
What other strategies have you found ambitious building this loyal readership?
Well, yes, it is a great challenge, but I think it's. I will get back to the point where I started. I think that the fact that the owners and that the publishing house has a very consistent and coherent offering is very important, and that the values that are behind us, of course, it's not like we just publish completely non-commercial alternative literature. Just because we have 20 people, more than 20 people now, that we have to pay salaries every month, we need to publish the books that will sell, at least to a certain level. So we are looking for the books that are very good, very important, and that will be interesting for the readers. But the set of values are quite coherent. So I think that people trust us. We were working on our credibility for years. And unfortunately, it has also its dark side, because if some mistake happens, we need to pay dearly for that, because people trust us and they value us. And if we make some mistake, they are not very forgiving. They are really disappointed. So we need to really work hard to meet their expectations.
Is that just
I think that
they didn't enjoy the book? Is it?
No, if for instance we make a mistake, we had if some writer writes something that is not, that he shouldn't. I maybe I will not go deeper into that. Let's get back to yes, but no, some mistakes happens. This is more for non-fiction literature. So probably everybody who publish non-fiction knows that it has its challenges. But I believe that this kind of pressure is actually, I would say that this is our advantage, and it's also something that we can be proud of, because I mean, if people are disappointed, it meant that they expected a lot, and it meant that they valued you. So what we do most is we try to have as direct contact with readers, journalists, etc., as possible. Because of course we use social media, etc., and we know, but we are not completely sure how effective it is with the promotion of literature. We know we were probably the first who started with Facebook. I know it's not innovative anymore, but it was 15 years ago on Polish markets, and there is no other publishing house who has so many followers as we do. But it's not functional for many years now, I think. And of course we opened Instagram and TikTok even. And we know how to do it to make people engage, but we are not completely sure if it really means that they will read the book. So we don't want to, and we want to concentrate much more on the message and less on the algorithms. At some point, you can catch yourself that you are trying to find the best way to make some post visible, etc. And you think about algorithm, yeah, more than about the message, than about what you are trying actually to say. So while we of course do all that stuff, because it's not possible probably right now to function without it in the public space, we much more value direct contacts with, and there's no shortcuts. Building the relationship with media, for instance, we organize a few times a year meetings with influencers. Those are not huge influencers like bookstagrammers, etc. Usually young people, not often, not always. And we meet with them. We invite like 10 people. We talk to them. Sometimes we invite some writer also to be present, drinking coffee, drinking tea, having something to eat, and just listen to them, what they liked, what they didn't like, maybe to open a little bit, tell them what we are planning to publish. It works with fiction very well. And we attend a lot of book fairs, Polish book fairs, those smaller ones that are more intended for readers than for some business meetings. And then when we go there, we always go there in person. We never engage some exterior partners, etc. We want to talk to the readers ourselves. It's important for us that we who know the books, who can talk about the books, we can also listen and collect the feedback. And of course, this is not a huge group when we talk to a few hundreds people, but it's still a lot for us. So
yeah. I think
this
a
is
lot
very
of people
slow.
think, that this is actually innovative now, that it becomes a novelty to meet people in real life and talk about a book in real life and form a genuine connection. However, some people might think that social media is easier for them because perhaps it's not as exhausting as traveling. Or, there's quite a bit of accountability there that you were mentioning to the influencers as well, receiving feedback either way. And I guess as publishing houses, we can't be precious about that. If we thought this was our book of the year, but the influencers say, well, I don't think it was an authentic representation of a certain community, or whatever feedback they're going to give us, we need to sort of be open to that, because that really will help our marketing. And really will help our editorial vision if we listen, but listening is the hard part when we're so close to our books, right?
Yeah, this is true.
But I think we do need to think about more in-person strategies, events online or in person perhaps, as social media does decline. As you were saying, thinking like an algorithm is not necessarily useful. I think that whenever I approach a book, I am thinking, who is this for? And you aim to use a social media which aligns with that audience. If it's under 35 and female, you'll likely go to Instagram. However, like you say, the algorithms do really hide the messaging that you're doing. And sometimes I find things like TikTok, you sculpt your message to TikTok's algorithms rather than what is the message of the book, like you were saying, which, I think sometimes is not the most authentic. I don't know if this is a big part of Czarne's marketing outreach, or if you've experimented with it at all. But strangely for me, I have found at Fly on the Wall that our biggest marketing tactic is Substack. So just an email newsletter, but has now been used primarily by journalists and taken on by writers. People subscribe every month, some pay, and they get a Friday newsletter, preview, and paid. So everyone gets some kind of content, and some of it's paid. And it's just really blown up, I think, because it offers resources to writers as well. It offers information as well as information on the books. But it allows me to be more personal and spend time with someone. They read a whole email. And starting out marketing, I never thought that email would be my best strategy. And it's strange that unfortunately social media is broken down in such a way that we can't reach readers in the same way. I don't know if you ever have found this, Zofia.
Well, yeah, I definitely have this feeling that I know we are having some analysis, etc., and we see, okay, this post or something, it went viral, and then I say, and what happens next? Like, so many people clicked something. What happened next? Nothing, probably. And with and email, I also, like, when I write emails, I stopped writing newsletters that much because people here, they usually delete it. But when you add what you said, when you add some personal note, it works wonders. It's so much different. But this is also a long way, something that require patience, yes, because I need to know the person and I need to know the author and the journalist, etc. And then I can, it's like less but more. In fact, I can maybe write 100 emails instead of sending the newsletter to thousands and thousands of people, but I can write it to the right 100 of people, and I can tell them what they need to know, and then they will get the message and they will make use. And then also when they will say then an email from my address, they will probably open it, what is a success itself, because some of them there, we product a lot of books. I remember one journalist who said on the air, it was on the radio, he said, while we were talking on this program, I received 40 emails about the new books. During this hour, I received 40 emails about new books from different publishers.
Wow.
And we produce a lot of books. So this is really a challenge to convince somebody that this is the one they should open. They should just take and open, not and then maybe read a few pages and then to see if they want to follow. And we were looking for many years for some shortcuts and some magical ways to do that. And then we find out that the best way is to talk to people. By email, maybe. By social media, we try. We don't give up, we try. It's not like we and for some, this is the best way. I know that there are people who really get information about the books. We always ask people also during book fairs, etc. How do you get your information on books? And most of people say, I know it from my friends. Sometimes from people from social media they follow and they respect, but less and less. I think that this time of big influencers is not on anymore. Usually they got information from friends. So somehow I think that we are a little bit going back to the way it was before.
Yeah, I think you're
less
right.
critics.
We're more disconnected online, and it sounds like the in-person connections are what really works for Czarne and your growth. That active listening, I think, of what your readers are enjoying. We have about 15 minutes, so I've got more questions for Zofia, but if you have questions you want to pop in the chat so I can make sure those are answered for you, that would be lovely. Zofia, I wanted to talk a little bit about how Czarne supports authors throughout their career. So how do you develop them and sort of raise their profile? I imagine that you've worked with a few debuts over the last years. And do you have a sort of development of their strategy throughout a whole book, throughout multiple books even?
The Polish market is quite specific, I would say, because we generally don't have like a typical agents, somebody who represents author, who takes care of their interest. We don't have it. I mean, we have some agents, but this is not like a thing that is normal. So we need to have this role a little bit, and we are a little bit like an agent or a publicist, but yet interest of the publishing house must be the first. So if there is some, I know, conflict, or not necessarily conflict, but the difference of interest, we need to put the publishing house in the first place, of course. But we do want to create this relationship with an author, to make him feel that he is well taken care of, that we care for him, that we have his best interest in heart. And I think usually they do know it. We don't make exclusive contracts generally, and this is quite common in Poland, especially when you are a debutant. Many publishing houses want to sign the contract that will not allow you to publish with anybody else, at least for some time. And of course, we ask them if they write a new book to bring it to us first. But generally, we don't want anybody to be stuck with us if they feel like they want to go somewhere else. And they do from time to time, because the bigger publishing houses, of course, they have a lot of more money, and they can have big companies, etc., big promotional campaigns with a lot of money put into that. But they don't do it for everybody. They usually have one book and they invest in this one book, and each author think that they are going to be this one book. But they are not usually, not some, if somebody is, good for them, but many of them come back to us because we don't do that. We treat all books equally, what is also quite not typical. I remember at the beginning when I was working at promotional office, we always ask our boss to tell us which books are most important and in which books we should invest the most attention, etc. And it was impossible for her. She was trying to say, but she just couldn't say this book is not important. This book you just have to do some standard actions. You don't have to try really hard to promote it. And after a few years, we just stopped asking her. We knew that every book is important and every book is worth to fight for in this.
So every book would get an equal budget, would you say? If every book is equally as important,
yes,
everyone's getting the same pot of money, the same opportunity.
Of course, it's not completely like that. When we see that some book is really doing very well, we will probably put a little bit more effort in that book. But the difference in budgets is like 10% maybe or 20%. It's not that we are spending some small amount on one book and then a huge amount on another book. They are quite even, I would say. And we are trying our best to promote every book. And I think that after some time, authors do appreciate that. And also, we want to engage them as much as we can in different activities. So they are not just writers who promote their books. I think it's good for them to have a network also. So sometimes they promote other authors. They write blurbs. They very often they become judges of some awards, or sometimes we engage them to be judges on our little contests, or they take part in some panels, etc. So we want them to become also some kind of personality that is recognizable, that is known to some extent, of course, in our circles. So we do work on them as a people, as an authors, as the creators, as the people who have this creative energy and can share it with others. And we, if they want to go, we let them go. And if they are back, we are happy. And they are quite often back, I think. I think that they appreciate also the fact that we don't promise them things that we will not do. They know what can they get. And yeah, I think honesty also in the bigger picture is the good strategy.
That's very fair. I mean, we talk about brain drain from small publisher to, the big five. However, it is a positive thing from all sides. We like to hope, because as you say, they might come back. And I think it does depend on the type of book. Some books are better for a small publisher to take on, and some books are better for a commercial audience or a commercial marketing strategy, which a bigger publishing house might know the audience for better. So hopefully it's symbiotic. We have a question in the chat, and I think this one potentially might be easy for us to answer, because Naria says, how does an author who sends their manuscript in a foreign language intended to be published in one of the major languages send their manuscript? Must it be in English, in the native language? And how does one approach this? How does one first approach publishers or agents? So for me, we accept translations. However, generally what you will see with this is if you've written in your native language, then generally I would personally say approach native publishers, so that they can then sell the rights for you and that they will know the right connections. Whereas, you as an author not specializing in rights deals will be a little bit over your head and won't be able to enjoy the writing process. Also, if you have an agent, they'll be able to handle that for you. So what might be the most right for your manuscript is to find an agent in your country who will represent you well, and then they'll be able to sell your rights. Or equally, you can give the rights of translation to a publisher direct. So sometimes small publishers, we have translation rights if there's no agent involved, and they can do that for you. Conversely, if you really do want to approach a publisher in another country directly and you know a translator and you have a sample chapter, then you can do that. The only thing is this is quite costly. We were talking earlier with English Pen, and I believe they have a translation fund for sample chapters so that translators can apply and be paid ethically for that, and it can be sent out to agents and publishers so that they can read it in the English language translated from any language around the world. So that's quite an accessible fund. But again, funding is quite difficult. So if you are able to start within your country, I would say that's the easiest way, and then people will be able to link you up with the global network in terms of translation. I don't know what you would say about that, Zofia.
Well, the same mostly, because the truth is, it's happened extremely rarely that the book that is not published in its native language will get translated, because somehow this is for us also some guarantee. If the publisher from this country, if there was a publisher who wanted to invest in that book, then it's a bigger chance that it will work for us too. It happens, but extremely rarely, and mostly with the authors that have something else published. But if you do want to do that, it's probably not the best idea to have a whole translation, because also publishers like to choose their own translators and people who they trust and who they work with. So it's better we never translate. No, it's not true. We translated 2 books probably from English that were not written originally in English, but it was the author's request. One was a Chinese book, and the author wrote a specific or authorized a specific English version of the book for international market. But usually we translate for the original language. It's very important for us to have this original version as a base of our edition. So we can, it's always nice to get a sample. We can read the English sample, of course, always, or the Polish sample, but it's better not to invest in the full translation because there is a big chance that it wouldn't be used after all, that we'd rather have our own translation made after that. But I think the first step is to try to get a publisher in your original country. And it makes everything so much easier later.
Yeah, definitely. I think you'll get yourself very stressed trying to do the job of multiple people. Your publisher or agent later on will be able to introduce you to people and tell you a little bit about how the network works. I think otherwise it's quite overwhelming for an author direct. Do we have any further questions on marketing literary fiction, small press markets, anything like that? We have another couple of minutes that we can focus on. I think the thing that I've got most from the Green Book Fair today is that there's a level of trust across all markets, across translation, across film, across literary agencies. You know, it's all about, do we trust in, say, the brand of that company or that person or that author, and what kind of prizes or newspapers can back that up and reduce this risk for us. Because we're always trying to find that winning formula, I think, to know what it takes to get this best-selling book. But as you say, perhaps there are no shortcuts as much as I would.
Well, there is also, I think we need to be aware, and I guess everybody present here is aware that not every book will sell. I'm sure you know it. As well as I know it. It's just, we just need to accept that and not get discouraged of that. We'll publish 10 books and one of them probably will be a hit, and if you are lucky, and probably 2 or 3 or 5 will sell very poorly, and sometimes there will be great books, fantastic books, and it will be very disappointing and frustrating, because this is so frustrating when you present readers with a great literature, with a fantastic literature, and they just don't take it and don't read it. This is always sad, but this is what's going to happen. Unfortunately, it happens to us all the time. But then we just publish another good books.
Thank you, Zofia. And Margaret saying, yep, can't expect anything in any field. But
Yeah.
it's been fascinating to hear about how Poland and Czarne specifically works, the risk taking that you're doing, and the strategies to connect more with people, I've found quite inspiring. So thank you so much for sharing your expertise there. I hope everyone's found it useful. I will send the recording round after the event, and I hope you'll join us tomorrow. We start again. We have a book pitching for publishers, and then we'll start again in the afternoon, and we'll be looking at a global collaboration and translation around Don't Look Left by Atef Abu Saif. So hopefully we will see you there, and you can see how 12 publishers work together to do this co-edition, which is a very interesting collaboration indeed. So hopefully see you there, and thank you so much. Have a lovely rest of your day.
Thank you.